Good morning. As you know, the battle continues to get some of this stuff done before the kids wake up, but she is insisting on sitting in my lap. We moved to the porch this morning because both of them were already up, and I said, well, I can watch them through this door while they're playing in the den, and I can record out here alone, but here we are. So I'm going to go and review chapter 7. I don't know if you guys remember, but when we finished chapter 7, it talked about how Maddie was coming back from Trade Mart, and he was talking to Seer, and Seer was telling him, did people look different when they were done, or did anything seem to change with some of these people that were at Trade Mart? And he's like, okay, now that you mention it, there were a few things that were different, like that woman who was always so nice, and she had the husband who kind of like walked with a limp. She was like being mean to him, which was out of character. And she also left with a gaming machine, which we know is a luxury. So it makes you wonder, did she trade some of her positive traits, the good things about her, to have this luxury, which we know is not the right thing to do. And then we also know that the teacher, he that had the birthmark on his face, go see Sissy. Yeah. The teacher had the birthmark on his face, and he's been trading something, and we're not sure what, but his birthmark is slowly going away. It's almost completely gone now, so we don't know what that's all about. But I think that the more we read, we're going to find out what exactly is going on. Okay, so this is chapter 8, Messenger. The puppy was ready, so was Maddie. The other little dog, the one who had been his childhood companion for years, Branchy, remember, had lived a happy, active life, died in his sleep, and had been buried with ceremony and sadness beyond the garden. For a long time, Maddie, missing Branch, had not wanted a new dog, but now it was time, and when Jean summoned him, her message was that Maddie had to come right away to pick up the puppy because her father was furious at its mischief. He hurried to her house. We know how puppies can be, so I can relate to Jean's dad. He had not been to Mentor's home place since Trade Mart the previous week. The flower garden, as always, was thriving and well tended, with late roses in bloom and fall asters fat with bud. He found Jean there, kneeling by her flower bed, digging with a trowel. She smiled up at him, but it was not her usual saucy, fraught with flirtatiousness. The smile that drove Maddie nearly mad. This morning she seemed troubled. He's shut in the shed, she told Maddie, meaning the puppy. Did you bring a rope to lead him home? Like a leash to bring him home? Don't need one. He'll follow me. I have a way with dogs. Jean sighed. She set her trowel aside and wiped her forehead, leaving a smear of earth that Maddie found very appealing. I wish I did, she said. I can't control him at all. He's grown so fast, and he's very strong and determined. My father is beside himself, wanting such a little wild thing gone. You want to go play with Katie? No. Maddie grinned. Mentor deals a lot with wild little things in the schoolhouse. I myself was a little wild thing once, and it was he who tamed me. Jean smiled. I remember. What a ragged, naughty thing you were, Maddie, when you came to the village. I called myself the fiercest of the fierce. You were that, Jean agreed with a laugh, and now your puppy is. Is your father home? No, he's off visiting Stocktender's window, as usual, Jean said with a smile. All right, let me pause here and go get her settled. Can you go see Katie?
No.
Can you say bye-bye?
No.
Okay, so page 76. She's a nice woman. Jean nodded. She is. I like her. But Maddie, who has been standing, sat down on the grass at the edge of the garden. What? May I tell you something troubling? He felt himself awash with affection for Jean. He had for a long time been attracted to her girlish affections, her silly charms and wiles, but now, for the first time, he felt something new. He perceived the young woman behind all those superficial feelings. With her curly hair tumbling over the dirt-streaked forehead, she was the most beautiful person that Mattie had ever seen. And now she was talking to him in a way that was not foolish and childlike, designed to entrance, but instead was human and pained and adult. He felt suddenly that he loved her, and it was a feeling he had never known before. "It's about my father," she said in a low voice. "He's changing, isn't he?" Mattie replied, startling himself because he had not spelled it out in his mind before, had not said it aloud yet here it was, and he was saying it to Jean. He felt an odd sense of relief. Jean began to cry softly. "Yes," she said, "he has traded his deepest self." Traded? That part took Mattie by surprise because he had not thought of it to there. "Traded for what?" Mattie asked in horror and realized that he was repeating the phrase from Trademark. "For Stocktender's widow," she said, weeping. "He wanted her to love him, so he traded. He's becoming taller and straighter. The bald spot at the back of his head has grown hair. His birthmark has disappeared." "Of course, that was it. I saw it," Mattie told her, "but I didn't understand." He put his arm around the sobbing girl. She caught her breath finally. "I don't know how lonely he was, Mattie. If I had known." So that's why. Mattie was trying to sort through it in his head. The puppy. Once he would have loved a naughty puppy, Mattie, the way that you love. That he loved you when you were a ragged boy. I knew it all for certain yesterday when he kicked the puppy. Till then, I only suspected. Jean wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and left another endearing streak of dirt. "And the petition?" Mattie added, thinking of it suddenly. "Yes, Father always welcomed new ones. It was the most wonderful part of Father, how he cared for everyone and tried to help them learn. But now—" They heard a loud whimpering from the shed and a scratching sound. "Let him out, Jean, and I'll take him home before your father gets back." She went to the shed door, opened it, and though her face was tear-streaked now, she smiled at the eager, ungainly puppy, who bound forth, jumped into Mattie's arms, and licked his cheeks. The white tail was a whir. "I need time to think," Mattie said, subduing the puppy with a rhythmic scratch below his chin. "What's to think about? There's nothing to be done. Trades are forever. Even if a stupid thing like a gaming machine breaks down, or if you tire of it, you don't get to reverse." He wondered if he should tell her that she had seen the effect of his power on the puppy and its mother, but hadn't understood. Now, if he chose, perhaps he could explain. But he was uncertain about this. He did not know how far his power went, and he did not want to promise this beloved girl something impossible. To repair a man's soul and deepest heart, to reverse an irreversible trade, might be far, far more than Mattie could possibly undertake. So Mattie's explaining to Jean, or he's thinking through his head, he's like, do I tell Jean about how I saved the puppy? Like, maybe I could save her dad, but I don't know if I'm that powerful. So he's just kind of thinking through what he should do next. But Jean recognizes that her dad is trading his soul to be a more handsome man so that this woman will fall in love with him. And so she is like sad about it because he's not nice anymore. He's actually very mean. And so anyway, Mattie's trying to figure out how much he should tell her because he doesn't know if he can save her dad. He stayed silent and took his lively puppy away. Look, he sits now when I tell him to. Then Mattie groaned and said, oh, sorry. When would he ever learn to stop saying look to a man who had no eyes? But the blind man laughed. I don't need to be able to look. I can hear he sits. The sound of his foot stop, and I don't feel his teeth on my shoes. So the seer's like, okay, I get it. I can't see the dog, but I know when he's walking around. I know when he obeys your commands. And I also know he's not biting my shoes anymore like crazy puppies do. He's smart, I think, Mattie said optimistically. Yes, I think you're right. He's a good little puppy, Mattie. He'll learn quickly. You don't need to worry about his mischief. The blind man reached out his hand, and the puppy scampered to it and licked his fingers. And he is quite beautiful. In truth, Mattie was trying to convince himself. The puppy was a combination of several colors, big feet, a whirligig of a tail, and lopsided ears. I'm sure he is. He'll need a name. I haven't thought of the right one yet. His true name will come to you. I hope I get my own soon, Maddie said. It will come when the time comes. Maddie nodded and turned back to the dog. First I thought of Survivor because he was the only one of the puppies that did, but it's too long. Doesn't sound like the right name for one. Maddie picked up the puppy and scratched its belly as it lay on his lap. So they're talking about naming the dog, and Maddie says that he is still waiting on his true name because in Village they have names according to what makes them special. Like Seer is named Seer because he's able to see things even without vision. Okay, as a blind man, he's still able to sense and see things. And then we have Leader, who we know is from the original book, The Giver, and he kind of leads this village. And so Maddie has been saying that he wants to be known as Messenger, but he hasn't been given that name yet. So that's what he's talking about when he's saying that the name will come when the time is right. So then Maddie began to laugh. Since he was the one that lived, I thought of Liver for a name. Liver? The blind man laughed as well. I know, it's a stupid idea. Liver with onions. Maddie made a face. He set the puppy on the floor again and it dashed off, tail wagging, to growl at the logs piled beside the stove and to chew at the edges where raw wood curled. You could ask Leader, the blind man suggested. He's the one who gives true names to people. Maybe he'd do it for a puppy. That's a good idea. I have to go see Leader anyway. It's time to take messages around for the meeting. I'll take the puppy with me. Clumsy with his stubbly legs and oversized feet, the puppy couldn't manage the stairs at Leader's home place. Maddie picked him up and carried him and set him on the floor in the upper room where Leader was waiting at his desk. The stacks of messages were ready. Maddie could have taken them and left on his errand without pausing, but he lingered. He enjoyed Leader's company. There were things he wanted to tell him. He began to put them in order in his mind. Do you want to put a paper down for him? Leader asked, watching with amusement as the little dog scampered around the room. Nah, he's fine. He's never had an accident. It was the first thing he learned. Leader leaned back in his chair and stretched. He'll be good company for you, Maddie, the way Branch was. Do you know, he went on, in the place where I was a child, there were no dogs, no animals at all. No chickens or goats? No, nothing. So this is Leader telling him about what it was like to live in the story The Giver. Okay. So he's saying there were no goats, no chickens, no nothing. What did you eat then? Maddie asked. We had fish, lots of fish from a hatchery, and plenty of vegetables, but no animal meat, and no pets at all. I never knew what it meant to have a pet, or even to love something and be loved back. His words made Maddie think of Jean. He felt his face flush a little. Did you never love a girl? He asked. He thought Leader would laugh, but instead the young man's face became reflective. I had a sister, Leader said after a moment. I think of her still, and I hope she's happy. He picked up a pencil from the desk, twirled it in his fingers, and gazed through the window. His clear blue eyes seemed to be able to see great distances, even into the past or perhaps the future. Maddie hesitated. Then he explained, I meant a girl, not like a sister, but, well, a girl. Leader put the pencil down and smiled. I understand what you mean. There was a girl once, long ago. I was younger than you, Maddie, but I was at the age when such things began. What happened to her? She changed, and I did too. Sometimes I think I want nothing to change, ever, Maddie said with a sigh. Then he remembered what he had wanted to tell Leader. Leader, I went to Trademark, he said. I hadn't been before. Leader shrugged. I'd wish they'd vote to end it, he said. I never go anymore, but I did in the past. It seemed folly and time-wasting, and now it seems worse. It's the only way to get something like a gaming machine. Leader made a face. A gaming machine? He commented with disdain. Well, I'd like one, Maddie grumbled, but Seer says no. Puppy wandered to a corner of the room, sniffed, made a circle of himself, collapsed, and fell asleep. Maddie and Leader together watched it and smiled. It isn't just gaming machines and such, Maddie had wondered how to say it, how to describe it. Now into the silence as they watched the sleeping puppy, he found himself simply blurting it out. Something else happened at Trademark. People are changing, Leader. Mentor is. I've seen the changes in him, Leader acknowledged. What are you telling me, Maddie? Mentor's traded away his deepest self, Maddie said, and I think that others are too. Leader leaned forward and listened intently as Maddie described what he had seen, what he suspected, and what he knew. Leader gave me a name for him, but I don't know if I like it. Maddie was back home by lunchtime and delivering the last of the messages. The blind man was at the sink washing some clothes. And what is it? He asked, turning towards Maddie's voice. Frolic. It has a nice sound to it. How does the puppy feel about it? Maddie lifted the puppy from where it had been riding, curled up in his jacket. For most of the morning it had followed him, scampering at his heels, but eventually its short legs had tired, and Maddie had carried it the rest of the way. The puppy blinked. He had been asleep in the jacket, and Maddie set him on the floor. Frolic? Maddie said, and the puppy looked up, and his tail churned. Sit, Frolic, Maddie said. The puppy sat instantly. He looked intently at Maddie. He did, Maddie told the blind man in delight. Lie down, Frolic. After a flicker of a pause, the puppy reluctantly sank to the floor and touched the rug with his small nose. He knows his true name already. Maddie knelt beside the puppy and stroked his little head. Good puppy, he said. The big brown eyes gazed up at him, and the spotted body, still sprawled obediently on the floor, quivered with affection. Good, Frolic, Maddie said. Whew. All right, so he's told Leader what's going on and what he thinks is going on with Mentor. And so I think that once we get to the bottom of Mentor's story, which we kind of know because Gene told us that he's trading his deepest soul for, more appealing looks so that this woman will fall in love with him. But now that Leader knows, maybe we can do something about it or to stop this trading process. Alright, so sorry for the beginning of this video, guys. If you need me to re-record it, just comment on here and I can. It's hard doing these videos sometimes with the kids. But here is something to look forward to. Katie, since it is Tuesday, it's supposed to rain most of the day, Katie has asked if she can make a cooking video. So we're going to attempt to do that in a little bit, and I will share it with you guys when we do. So thank you for sitting on the porch with me and reading Messenger. Thank you for putting up with crazy Amy and wanting to be in the camera all the time. I love you all. I hope you enjoyed that chapter. I can't wait to see what happens next. All right, love you.